Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, I want to talk to you today about something more valuable than gold, something that can guide your life like a lamp in the darkness. It's not a diploma, it's not a job, and it's not some hidden secret in a locked box. It's the God-given ability to think clearly, wisely, and truthfully. It's the power of critical thinking. Now, I'm not speaking about being critical for the sake of tearing others down. I'm talking about the sacred gift of discernment, about being able to separate truth from error, light from darkness, wisdom from foolishness. We are living in an age flooded with information, overflowing with voices, opinions, and distractions. But amid all this noise, we need men and women who can stop, pause, and think. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you truly thought for yourself? Not just repeating what you heard online, not echoing what someone shouted on a stage or typed on a screen, but really examined a matter, weighed it, tested it, searched it. We need people today who don't just react, but reflect. Who don't just listen, but question. What? Who don't just believe, but examine whether their belief is built on a rock or on sand. To be a critical thinker, you must first have a hunger for the truth. Not your truth, not my truth, but the truth. And truth is not decided by votes or trends or the passing winds of popularity. It is unchanging. It is eternal. Truth doesn't fear the light of examination. It welcomes it. The heart of a critical thinker is one that loves truth more than comfort, more than reputation, more than even being right. Because sometimes thinking critically means admitting you were wrong, and that takes humility. But how do we grow in critical thinking? First, we must learn to question, not out of rebellion, but out of reverence for what is right. The first question in the Bible wasn't from a prophet, it was from a serpent. Did God really say? And that tells us something. Not all questions are rooted in truth, but hear me now. Not all questions are rooted in lies either. You must learn to test the question, not just the answer. Is the motive behind the question pure? Is the pursuit honest? A critical thinker learns to ask questions not to destroy, but to discover. Second, you must seek wisdom. There's a difference between knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge can tell you how to build a ship. Wisdom tells you whether you should sail it. You can memorize books and still be blind. You can recite facts and still be a fool. But when you seek wisdom, you're seeking something higher than yourself. Wisdom isn't always loud, sometimes it whispers, but it always leads to peace, to clarity, and to justice. Third, to think critically, you must learn to listen. Listen more than you speak. Not every voice is worthy of your trust, but every voice can teach you something about themselves, about the world, and even about yourself. Listen to those who disagree with you, not to argue, but to understand. Listen to the voices that challenge your comfort, your assumptions, your worldview. Because sometimes the truth sounds unfamiliar before it becomes your foundation. Fourth, guard your mind. What you feed your thoughts becomes the soil where your ideas grow. If you feed your mind with gossip, bitterness, and cynicism, you will think like the world. But if you fill your mind with what is good, noble, and true, your thoughts will rise above the fog. Be careful what enters your mind, through your ears, your eyes, your conversations. A pure heart produces clear thoughts. A cluttered heart produces confusion. And finally, the critical thinker must have courage, because truth is not always convenient. It may isolate you. It may cost you something. In a world where many follow the crowd, it takes strength to stand alone. To say, I will not believe it just because it's popular. I will not accept it just because it's easy. I will examine it. I will search it, and I will stand only on what is right. Some of you here today, you've never been taught how to think critically. You were taught to follow, to obey, to accept what you're told. And maybe it's worked for a while. But the time will come, maybe it has already come, when you will be forced to choose, not between right and wrong, but between what is easy and what is true. And in that moment, you will need more than opinions. You will need conviction. You will need discernment. You will need discernment. You will need the ability to think clearly, courageously, and truthfully. So I say to you, be a thinker, but don't stop there. Be a critical thinker. Seek the truth with all your heart. Don't settle for half-truths or popular lies. Test every thought. Measure every belief. Stand only on what cannot be shaken. Because when you think with truth, you walk in light. And when you walk in light, no darkness can overcome you. Truth must be your highest pursuit, not comfort or convenience. In every generation, people have been faced with the choice between what is right and what is easy, between what is true and what is comfortable. The problem is not that truth has disappeared, it's that many no longer pursue it. They settle for substitutes. They trade the eternal for the temporary, the solid rock for the shifting sand, the unchanging truth for the applause of men. But when a man or woman decides that truth is worth more than anything else, that person begins to rise above the fog of confusion and walk in clarity. The pursuit of truth is not for the faint of heart. It demands everything. It demands that you lay down your pride. It demands that you let go of assumptions, of traditions, even of what feels safe. Because sometimes the truth will call you out of your comfort zone, out of your echo chambers, out of your own self-made beliefs. Comfort whispers to you, stay here, you're fine, don't question it. But truth knocks on the door and says, come, follow me. I'll lead you somewhere real. But it won't be easy. And the moment you choose truth over comfort, you begin to think with a clarity the world cannot offer. There are many people who say they want the truth, but when it confronts their lifestyle, their ideology, or their pride, they reject it. They want a version of truth that never challenges them, never stretches them, never calls them higher. But real truth never bows to your convenience. It never seeks your approval. It simply is, and it will either change you or you will walk away from it. The pursuit of truth is not a hobby or a casual pastime. It is a calling, it's a mission. It's the heartbeat of critical thinking. Now, why do so many avoid the truth? Because the truth costs you. It costs your comfort. It costs your popularity. It may cost relationships. It may cost you the very things you once built your life around. But what you gain is worth more than all of that. You gain a foundation that cannot be shaken. You gain clarity in a confused world. You gain vision in a culture that is blind. Comfort may soothe you for a moment, but it can't guide you through a storm. Convenience may please you temporarily, but it cannot save you when everything is falling apart. Only truth can do that. The problem with many minds today is that they've been trained to avoid discomfort. If a thought challenges them, they shut it down. If an idea is unfamiliar, they label it dangerous. If a belief system disagrees with theirs, they attack instead of examine. This is not thinking, it's reacting. And reacting is not the same as reasoning. A critical thinker must be willing to sit in the discomfort of truth, to wrestle with it, to let it shine light into places they'd rather keep hidden. That's where real growth happens. Not in ease, but in exposure. Not in safety, but in surrender to what is real. Truth is not something you mold to fit your preferences. It molds you. It shapes your thoughts, it transforms your character, it refines your judgment. But it can only do this if you stop chasing convenience. Convenience makes you a consumer of information, jumping from one headline to another, one opinion to the next, never settling, never examining deeply. But truth demands that you slow down, think deeply, and test every idea. It asks you to put in the time, to go beyond the surface, to dig into the roots. And in that process, you become more than informed. You become wise. One of the most dangerous lies of our time is that truth is relative, that it changes with every person, every mood, every new trend. But that's not truth. That's preference. That's opinion. And opinions are as many as the stars, but truth stands alone. The moment you believe that your comfort defines truth, you've stopped thinking critically. You've become a mirror, not a light. You reflect what surrounds you instead of shining with clarity. But when you decide that truth is worth more than ease, you begin to see differently, think differently, live differently. Comfort is subtle. It doesn't always look like luxury. Sometimes it looks like approval, like staying quiet to keep the peace, like believing what's popular so you're not rejected. But every time you choose that kind of comfort, you trade a piece of your mind, a piece of your soul, for a false peace. Critical thinking is not about winning arguments. It's about aligning with what is right, even when it costs you something. And many times it will. But if you anchor your life in truth, you'll be able to face storms, confusion, and even loneliness with a strength that cannot be shaken. There is a kind of peace that truth brings, not the shallow peace of avoiding conflict, but the deep peace of standing on solid ground. Even when the world shakes, even when opinions change, even when friends leave, that kind of peace remains. But it only comes to those who value truth above their own ease. It's not given to those who chase what's comfortable. It's given to those who hunger for what is right. You must choose every day whether your mind will be ruled by comfort or by conviction. One path will entertain you. Each. The other will transform you. Question with reverence, not rebellion. There's a vast difference between the heart that questions to destroy and the heart that questions to discover. One tears down for the sake of ego. The other digs deep for the sake of truth. In this age where doubt is praised and certainty mocked, many have confused rebellion for wisdom. They think that to question authority is always noble, that to dismantle tradition is always enlightened. But the wise man knows that not every question is holy, and not every challenge is noble. Some questions are asked with pride, others with humility. The difference lies in the spirit behind the question. Reverence is not weakness, it is strength under control. It is the posture of someone who recognizes that the truth is greater than their own intellect. A person who questions with reverence does not aim to mock or ridicule, but to understand. They do not question to make themselves appear smarter, but to see more clearly. Their goal is not to create confusion, but to reach clarity. There is a sacredness in asking the right question, in coming before something higher than yourself and saying, "Help me see." Reverent questioning bows before truth while seeking it. Rebellious questioning tries to place itself above truth while denying it. Some of the most powerful moments in life begin with a question. Why am I here? Or what is the purpose of this suffering? What is right? Or what is wrong? These are not the questions of a skeptic looking to tear down. They are the cries of a soul looking for light. But how you ask the question matters. If you approach truth with a clenched fist, it will not reveal itself. But if you come with open hands and an honest heart, you will begin to see things differently. The humble questioner will always find more wisdom than the arrogant critic. Too many people today question everything except their own assumptions. They pick apart other people's beliefs, traditions, and values, but never turn that same scrutiny inward. Reverent questioning begins with yourself. It asks, why do I believe what I believe? What I believe, have I tested this? Have I examined it in the light? So it's truth, or just something I've accepted because it's easy? A critical thinker must have the courage to question their own thinking. That is not weakness. It is strength. It is the mark of maturity, of growth, of true intelligence. To question your own beliefs is not betrayal. It is refinement. But questioning with reverence doesn't mean blind acceptance either. It does not mean avoiding hard topics or pretending everything is fine. It means asking deep, serious, courageous questions without arrogance. It means having the patience to wait for real answers instead of settling for emotional reactions. It means being willing to follow the truth wherever it leads, even if it leads away from what you once believed. That takes humility. That takes bravery. That takes a mind that is not chasing control but understanding. In reverent questioning, there is also a willingness to learn from others. It does not assume superiority. It does not interrupt to correct. It listens. It observes. It recognizes that wisdom can come from unexpected places, from a child, from a stranger, from a story, from a failure. The rebellious mind wants to prove everyone else wrong. The reverent mind wants to uncover what is right. And that difference changes everything. When you ask, what can I learn? Rather than how can I win? You begin to walk the path of wisdom. The world is full of people who know how to argue, but few know how to inquire. Debate fills the airwaves, but honest inquiry is rare. And without it, we lose the art of real thinking. We drown in noise and never find the music. We get caught up in cleverness and miss the depth. But when we begin to question with reverence, a door opens. We begin to connect dots. We begin to grow. We begin to build, not just destroy, because true questioning is an act of construction. It's how minds are sharpened, how truths are uncovered, how faith is deepened. Even in ancient times, the greatest teachers welcomed questions, but they looked for the questioner's heart. Was it proud, or was it hungry? Was it trying to test, or was it trying to learn? The spirit behind your question matters more than the question itself. A rebellious spirit will only lead to chaos. A reverent spirit will lead to wisdom. And the kind of thinking that changes the world, the kind that builds civilizations, heals wounds, brings justice, is born from reverent inquiry, not cynical rebellion. Rebellion often masks itself as courage, but true courage is in reverence. It is in knowing that the truth is worth pursuing, even if it humbles you, even if it corrects you, even if it changes you. And if you are not willing to be changed, you are not really questioning. You are only defending. But the mind that questions with reverence welcomes change because it knows that growth is impossible without it. You cannot walk in wisdom while clinging to pride. You cannot discover light while loving darkness. You cannot think clearly if your heart is closed. So ask your questions, but ask them in a way that honors truth. Ask them with a mind ready to learn, with a heart willing to change, with a spirit that respects what it seeks. Don't tear down what you have not first tried to understand. Don't mock what you have not honestly explored. Don't question to destroy, question to discover. And in that sacred journey of asking, you will begin to see more than you ever imagined. Seek wisdom, not just knowledge. There is a vast difference between the two. Knowledge is the accumulation of facts, figures, theories, and ideas. It is information. Wisdom, on the other hand, is the ability to take that knowledge and apply it rightly, to see through confusion, to judge between what is good and what is merely clever, what is right and what only appears right. In today's world, knowledge is everywhere. It floods our screens. It pours from every direction. But wisdom is rare. Knowledge is easy to gather, but wisdom must be pursued. And that pursuit requires more than intelligence. It requires humility, discernment, and a hunger for truth that goes beyond the surface. A person may have all the degrees, the titles, the credentials, and yet be entirely lost when it comes to making wise decisions. You can memorize books, understand science, speak multiple languages, and still lack the ability to navigate life with clarity and depth. Wisdom isn't about how much you know, it's about how well you live. It's about the choices you make when no one is watching. It's about how you treat others, how you weigh your words, how you respond in crisis. And that cannot be taught in a classroom or found in a search engine. It must be formed deep within a person's character. The pursuit of wisdom starts with recognizing your own limitations. A wise person never believes they have arrived. They are always learning, always growing, always seeking to understand. They ask, they listen, they observe. They know that the loudest voice isn't always the right one, and the most popular opinion isn't always the true one. They look past the noise to find what's lasting, what's eternal. Wisdom is slow to speak and quick to listen. It waits before it reacts. It considers before it acts. It measures before it moves, and it refuses to be driven by impulse or emotion alone. In a world that moves at the speed of light, wisdom calls you to slow down. It tells you to stop scrolling and start reflecting. It urges you to take time to think, to pray, to seek counsel. Wisdom isn't in the rush, it's in the stillness. It's in the quiet corners of your soul where you wrestle with questions that have no easy answers. It's in the silence where you face your own motives, your fears, your desires, and ask, is this right? Not just does this work? Wisdom always starts with the question of what is right. One of the most important traits of wisdom is discernment, the ability to distinguish between truth and deception. Between what feels good and what is good, between what shines and what actually has value. The world is filled with distractions that look wise on the surface but are empty underneath. Flattery, manipulation, clever speech, emotional appeal. These can fool the mind that is only trained in knowledge. But wisdom cuts through the fog. It sees through the glitter to the substance. It knows that some paths look right but lead to ruin, and some opportunities look promising but carry a trap. And without wisdom, we fall into those traps. To be a critical thinker, you must be a seeker of wisdom. That means surrounding yourself with people who think deeply, who challenge you, who help you grow. It means reading not just to be informed, but to be transformed. It means asking questions that go beyond the how to the why. Why do I believe this? Why do I want this? Why am I afraid of that? Wisdom is not afraid of questions. It welcomes them. Because wisdom is not threatened by examination, it is revealed through it. And every time you ask an honest question, you are walking closer to it. The voice of wisdom is often quiet, drowned out by the shouting of the world. But if you listen, you'll hear it. In the caution you feel before making a decision. In the whisper that tells you to forget when your pride wants revenge. In the peace that comes from telling the truth even when it costs you. Wisdom speaks in ways that knowledge cannot. It addresses the heart, not just the head. It moves the soul, not just the intellect. And that is what makes it so powerful. It doesn't just change what you know, it changes who you are. Many chase after knowledge for power, for fame, for the ability to impress others. But wisdom never seeks to impress, it seeks to guide, to protect, to uplift. A wise person does not seek the spotlight. They seek the path of righteousness. They care more about what is right than what is impressive. And in doing so, they often gain respect not because they demanded it, but because they lived in a way that commanded it without words. True wisdom also acknowledges a higher source than self. It does not boast in its own understanding. It recognizes that there is a greater mind, a greater truth, a greater authority than human reasoning. And it submits to that. It bows to it. Because wisdom knows that pride is the enemy of understanding. Where pride exists, wisdom cannot grow. But where there is humility, where there is a willingness to be taught, to be corrected, to be shaped, wisdom will flourish. This is the kind of mind the world desperately needs today. Minds that think beyond headlines. Minds that reflect before they react. Minds that pursue what is right even when it's unpopular. Minds that are not swayed by trends but anchored in truth. Knowledge may open doors, but wisdom tells you which ones to walk through. Knowledge may make you successful, but wisdom will make you whole. Knowledge fills the mind, but wisdom fills the life with meaning. Guard your mind and what you allow to shape it. The mind is a battlefield, a sacred space where thoughts are planted, ideas are formed, and decisions are birthed. It is the control center of your life, directing your actions, your speech, your emotions, your habits. What enters your mind has the power to elevate you or corrupt you, to bring peace or confusion, to draw you toward truth or lead you into deception. Every day, your mind is being shaped by what you see, what you hear, what you read, and what you choose to dwell on. And if you are not careful, if you do not stand guard over that gate, you will find yourself living a life that is not truly your own, but one shaped by the voices of the world. The world is not neutral. It is loud, persuasive, and relentless in its attempts to shape the way you think. Social media, television, advertisements, conversations, news cycles, they are constantly feeding thoughts into your mind. Some are harmless, but many are destructive, disguised as entertainment or information, but carrying messages that subtly erode your values, your clarity, your purpose. You cannot expose your mind to everything and expect to think clearly. You cannot drink poison and stay healthy. What you allow into your mind will grow roots in your heart and bear fruit in your life. That is why critical thinking begins with discipline, not just in analysis but in consumption. Guarding your mind means being intentional. It means choosing what you watch, what you read, what you listen to. It means asking yourself, is this helping me grow in wisdom? Is this leading me toward truth? Is this sharpening my thinking or dulling my conscience? Because not all information is equal. Some things may be true but still toxic. Some ideas may be popular but still foolish. Some influences may be entertaining but still dangerous. The critical thinker understands that the health of the mind is determined not just by what it engages with, but also by what it refuses to entertain. Just as you would not leave your house unlocked for anyone to walk in, you must not leave your mind unguarded. There are thoughts that seek to break in and take control. Thoughts of fear, hatred, pride, lust, greed, despair. They do not announce themselves loudly at first. They come in quietly, through a story, a joke, a lyric, a post. They seem harmless until they begin to build a stronghold. But the disciplined mind resists them. It recognizes the danger early and shuts the door. It replaces those thoughts with what is pure, noble, excellent, and true. A guarded mind is not a closed mind. It is not afraid of ideas. It is not blind to the world. It is simply anchored, rooted, discerning. It filters every thought through the lens of truth. It does not accept every idea that sounds good or feels good. It tests everything. It holds on to what is good and discards the rest. The guarded mind is free, not because it is uninformed, but because it is not enslaved by lies. It has the freedom to think deeply, clearly, and courageously without being tossed around by every passing trend. One of the greatest enemies of a guarded mind is passivity. When you stop paying attention, when you let your guard down, when you allow your thinking to be shaped without your consent, that's when deception creeps in. The critical thinker stays awake. They do not consume thoughtlessly. They do not surrender their judgment to influencers, politicians, media personalities, or even friends. They ask questions. They seek clarity. They choose what to meditate on, knowing that what they repeat to themselves becomes the narrative of their life. Guarding your mind also means being careful with your self-talk. The thoughts you speak to yourself in silence are shaping you even more than the voices around you. If your mind is filled with condemnation, comparison, fear, or defeat, you will live small, anxious, and reactive. But if your mind is filled with truth, identity, purpose, and peace, you will live with confidence and conviction. You must be your own gatekeeper, not just against external influences, but internal lies. And the way to do that is to renew your mind daily, to flood it with truth, to saturate it in what is good, and to remind yourself of who you are and what truly matters. The guarded mind also chooses silence over noise. In the stillness, you can hear your own thoughts. You can evaluate them. You can ask, is this thought helping me or hurting me? Is it rooted in truth or in fear? Silence is not emptiness. It is clarity. It is the place where ideas settle, where direction emerges, where the fog begins to lift. The mind that is constantly distracted, constantly stimulated, never has time to process or grow. But the mind that makes space for silence becomes sharp, focused, and strong. In a world full of noise, guarding your mind is a revolutionary act. It is the refusal to be shaped by chaos. It is the decision to think intentionally, to consume wisely, to live consciously. It is not just a matter of mental health, it is a matter of identity and purpose. Because how you think determines how you live. And if your thoughts are shaped by truth, your life will reflect truth. But if your mind is shaped by the world, your life will be a reflection of its confusion, its fear, its instability, and its constant craving for validation. Stand firm with courage even when the truth isolates you. There is a cost to standing for what is right in a world that values comfort, compromise, and conformity. The moment you begin to think critically, to examine ideas instead of accepting them blindly, to speak truth instead of repeating popular narratives, you will feel the pressure. It might not come immediately in the form of persecution or mockery. It might come subtly, quietly, in the form of exclusion, disapproval, or silence from those you once called friends. But this is the price of courage. This is the path of those who choose to stand when others bow. Truth is not always welcome in every room. It exposes, it convicts, it unsettles. It brings light into places where darkness has made itself comfortable. And when you speak that truth, when you live it, when you refuse to deny it for the sake of peace, you may find yourself standing alone. But that is the very test of character. Anyone can speak the truth when it's applauded. Anyone can take a stand when the crowd agrees. But when the applause fades and the crowd turns against you, will you still hold the line? Will you still choose truth, even if it costs you approval, security, or belonging? Courage is not loud. It does not always come with a shout or a raised fist. Sometimes it's quiet, like a whisper in your soul saying, "Don't back down." Sometimes it's a lonely walk away from the crowd. Sometimes it's the decision to stay silent when others speak lies, or to speak when silence would be easier. It's that fire in your spirit that says, "I will not bend, not here, not now." Courage is not the absence of fear. It's the choice to act rightly in the presence of. And critical thinkers must be people of courage, because truth is rarely popular, and wisdom often walks alone. When you begin to walk the path of truth, you will encounter resistance. Not everyone wants to hear the truth, especially if it calls them to change. People cling to illusions, to half-truths, to comforting lies. And when you live a life that exposes those illusions simply by refusing to participate in them, you become a target. You might be misunderstood. You might be labeled. You might be accused of being judgmental, arrogant, or outdated. But none of that defines you. What defines you is the commitment to live according to what is right, not according to what is accepted. The world has always tried to silence voices of conviction. It tolerates everything except those who challenge its illusions. And the critical thinker must accept this reality. You do not think independently to fit in, you do it to be free. And freedom will often take you away from the crowd. But better to walk alone in truth than to march with the masses in error. Better to be rejected for righteousness than to be embraced for compromise. Because the road of truth is narrow and few find it, but it leads to life, clarity, and peace of conscience. Courage is not just needed for public stands. It's needed in the private decisions. It's needed when no one is watching, when the compromise is small, when the temptation is subtle. It's needed when you're tired, discouraged, or afraid. To be a critical thinker means to have the kind of integrity that holds even in the hidden places. Ryuan in the hidden place. It means choosing what's right when no one is there to applaud you for it. It means living in such a way that your conscience stays clear, even if your reputation suffers. That is the kind of courage that sustains a lifetime. Courage also means persistence. It means continuing to seek the truth, to speak it, to stand on it, even when the results don't come quickly. You may plant seeds of truth and see no immediate harvest. You may fight for what is right and feel like you're losing, but courage keeps going. It remembers that every act of integrity, every moment of clarity, every stand for truth sends ripples farther than you can see. Your courage may inspire others. Your example may give someone else the strength to rise. And even if it doesn't, it strengthens you. The courage to stand for truth must be rooted in something deeper than emotion. Feelings will come and go. Some days you'll feel bold, other days you'll feel weary. But when your courage is grounded in conviction, it becomes unshakable. You know who you are, you know what you believe, and you know what you will not do. That kind of courage cannot be bought, manipulated, or intimidated. It does not shift with public opinion or media trends. It stands because it is anchored to truth, and truth does not move. This kind of strength doesn't come from talent, education, or personality. It comes from discipline, from humility, from time spent thinking deeply and living intentionally. It grows in the soil of solitude, where you wrestle with hard questions and refuse to settle for easy answers. It develops through small daily decisions, where you choose what's right even when it's inconvenient. It's built by honesty, sustained by prayer, and proven in adversity. Every generation needs men and women of courage. Not just leaders on platforms, but ordinary people who live with extraordinary integrity. People who speak when others stay silent. People who stay rooted when others run. People who love the truth more than they love approval. Oh, that is the calling of the critical thinker. Not to be clever, but to be courageous. Not to win arguments, but to stand unshaken. Not to follow the crowd, but to follow the light, even if it leads into loneliness. Because they know that light always overcomes darkness. And the truth, no matter how long it is hidden, always prevails.